Hey, it's Janek Gwizdala. It's the Janek Gwizdala podcast. Bit of a special episode today because we have a brand new piece of gear. It's only been available for pre-order for just a couple of days. And that means there are basically none of them out there in the wild. I may be one of the first people to be making a video about this, which is really exciting. I'm always happy for a bunch of things. Number one, that a very good friend of mine, Ian Martin Allison, was kind enough to tell the folks at Walrus Audio, ask them, hey, when we get some of these, could you send one to Janek to check it out? I was kind of aware that it was happening. Ian and I are pretty good friends. We talk on a pretty regular basis, and I was just excited about the process of him getting a pedal out there. And whenever you have a friend who has an idea, has a passion, is good at what they do, knows what they're talking about, and then it comes to fruition, it's always a great thing. So I was just super happy for him in general. I knew it was happening. I didn't know I was getting one until very recently, and it showed up just a couple of days ago. In fact, yesterday. I took it to my gig last night, used it on sound check a little bit just because I wanted to get an impression of it in the room. And here we are. I'm putting it under the microscope today with you, for you, so you can check out the new Mantle bass, analog bass preamp and DI from Walrus Audio. Huge thanks to everyone involved for getting me one of these so early before anyone else has them out in circulation. That's really special. Always nice to be in that position. I'm very, very grateful. And Walrus... they don't know I'm making this video. There was no... I didn't get this because I was going to make a video. I got this because Ian, I think, genuinely wanted my opinion on it. We've been texting a little this morning, and it's been really hard for me not to say to Ian, hey, give me the full breakdown. Give me all of your passion and emotion-driven thoughts behind this, because I want to have those experiences for myself in real time and share them with you. I don't want it to be the voice of someone else. There are two videos. One is a performance of a song, which sounds fantastic, I think. Great to hear Ian in not soloist mode, but artist mode, kind of the driving force behind the song, I believe. There was a demo song posted using this by Walrus Audio. And then, of course, there was a masterclass in what this thing does. All of the nitty-gritty details, I highly recommend you go check out that video. It's posted on the Walrus Audio YouTube channel. I'll link it below. It's a really nice run-through and very detailed and technical explanation of what all the different EQ bands do and the cuts and the positions of the knobs and all of that stuff. Go check that out when you want the real technical insight behind the design and what went into this. What I'm going to give you today is sound samples and my honest reaction to what it does. Obviously, I've been playing with it for a little bit before I hit record, so it's not the first time I'm playing this, but we're going to go through. See how satisfying this is. We're going to go through all the sound options, and I have managed to hook up my normal pedal board with what I am currently using and be able to A/B it, switch back and forth with an A/B box and go back and forth between the different sounds. Maybe if you follow the channel for a while, you have a feel for what my sound is, which will be hopefully a good indicator of how this pedal sounds, give you a comparison. So we'll plug it in and we will talk about something more on the... Is it controversial? I'm not sure whether it's really controversial. I think it's just stupid. It's stupidity to the forefront. It's, I went and watched those videos from Walrus Audio, and on the product description video by Ian, there were so many negative comments. First of all, there were amazing feedback about the whole thing. Lots of people being very positive about it. I don't want to discount that at all. But a rather loud voice was based around the price. Now, I know that I'm one of the only people in the world to hold this in my hand, to be able to use it, to actually know anything real and tangible about it right now. And I'm going to hazard a guess that not a single person commenting under that video has had any experience with it at all. And the first thing, yes, a smaller than the positive thing, but the negative reaction was wow, what are you guys talking about? What the F is this price? Blah, 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 of expletives. And A lot of very puzzling reactions. And that is thankfully not the majority on that post or in general, but it is a growing voice in the community when stuff like this comes out. And hopefully by going through this, by comparing it to some other things that I have here, there's also my huge DI shootout video that's maybe almost 2 years old now. You can go check out. I'll link that in the description below, which looks at a really wide range of price points for products. Hopefully I can shed some light on what goes into something like this. And yeah, sort of maybe open people's eyes and ears, more importantly, to how you make decisions about buying gear. I heard something, we'll get to this phrase a little bit later because I want to get to the music as quickly as possible, but keep this in the back of your mind. Buy once, cry once. I heard this not that long ago, and it really got me thinking. I was like, oh yeah, you run through all these different things. Maybe you run through 5 or 6 different versions of the same thing. Maybe it's a DI, maybe it's a preamp, and because you can't afford the one that's $1,000 or $1,500, or the Neve 1073, the rack unit that's like $2,000. And you go through all these things at like $200, $300, $500, $550, $449, all of these different price points. And you sort of cry a little bit each time because they're still not cheap. None of them are cheap. Nobody's giving this stuff away. None of this stuff is $50, no matter how you do it. And there is a noticeable bounce, a bump in quality in a lot of cases when you do go up the price scale. So that buy once, cry once, I was like, oh yeah, just set the goal of getting the thing. You know, if the thing is $1,000 and that's the right thing, you know, if in the end you're still pining after that thing, I think it's a question of like trying to figure out how to make better decisions earlier on rather than going through all of these stages of pain. Go to the big stage of pain and get it over and done with, and then having the thing, owning it and using it and it making you happy will relieve that pain and stop you crying right away. That's kind of how I've been thinking about it. And I'm not exempt from that at all. I might be one of the worst people, the worst offenders in this department, as I'm guessing a lot of us are. But it really made me think moving forward, like, oh yeah, this is $749, but let's dig into it and see how it sounds. And if it touches you, if you go like, oh, wow, now that is something I haven't heard before. That's something that suits me, or that's something I really want in my life. Maybe have that thing of buy once, cry once. Go for the bigger thing. Get the pain over with. Get it healed by the fact that you're getting something of super high quality, something you're going to use all the time. And maybe that's a better way of thinking about it. Maybe I've inadvertently not helped out a lot of pedal builders who want you to buy tons of different pieces of gear, but I think there's space for everyone here. Let's get the mantle on the desk. Let's plug it in. Let's power it up. It's standard pedal power, but it draws I think 500 milliamps. I'm using the Choks, CIOKS Choks, the Danish company Choks 4, to power this. Plenty of power in that. Controls are really simple on the face of things, in terms of you have treble EQ, bass EQ, and a gain knob. That's basically it. There are 2 other controls, if you like. There's a minus 10 dB pad, and there is a ground lift on the other side. Now, for the purposes of balancing the signal, kind of like having sort of unity gain between my 2 setups here, I've actually got the pad in, even though I'm playing a passive bass, and generally you would have the passive bass out at plus 10 dB. It's suited, for the purposes of this video, it's suited balancing the sound a lot better by having the pad in. And if Ian's watching this, I'm sure he's screaming at it like, no, don't do that because that does the other thing and that thing. Again, technical details, you go to Ian and you go to his explanation of everything. I've got a simple AB box here, which is not in the best of shape, I'm finding out. So bear with me on all of this. And let's do it. I need a little more juice in my headphones, and I think we'll be good to go. Yeah. Okay. Yes, exactly. So that's my channel 1. That's the mantle, and So I've got them pretty balanced and pretty flat because that's my pedal board now. That's the other side of things. I've just realized, man, promise you we're getting to the sounds, but when you do this whole thing on your own, there are just so many moving pieces, and I've forgotten to put the fill light in over here. I'm looking at the monitor and it's a little dark, so let me just brighten that up a bit. Oh, okay, that's a little better. It's a little cozier. You can see both sides of my face. I don't look like some Halloween character. So let's see here. We have unity with everything. I've got both pickups wide open. And for the time being, no tone rolled in. So it's a little on the dark side. But we'll get to that. We'll move everything around here. Let's go to the mantle. Okay. So the gain thing in the middle is super simple. I believe when the arrows are all facing up, when the knobs are at 12 o'clock, everything is flat. And then there are various elements of like high pass filter and just notching bass frequencies back, cutting them out, and notching the highs out as well, notching them in. Again, go look at, like, I'm not about to make graphs of all of this stuff. Walrus Audio and Ian went to like painstakingly through everything and made graphs and gave a great visual in that video. So again, it's linked below. When you want the exact frequencies that it's cutting and boosting, go check that out. That should be your roadmap, not me. We are here to make sounds. And last night I had a show and I was playing on the front pickup a little more often than I do, just because the comping and the feel and the sound was right for whatever reason. And I had like a fraction of tone rolled in. You see how much of a difference that makes? This is 0 tone, and this is a fraction of tone. Just like that. So maybe we'll run through some sounds on the mantle. Let's go with a little low end. We're bass players here. Let's boost the low end just a little bit. I'll try and stay within that range, playing a similar pattern, similar collection of notes. Just for now, while we work on this bass thing, let's put it back to 0. I gotta say, I am the kind of person who likes kind of the most amount of options with the least amount of stress in the moment. I think that's maybe a good way of putting it. There's a thing about practicing with pedals and practicing with your gear. You may well be the kind of player, as I am at times, that goes out there and it's set it and forget it. You know, there's obviously the case for that where you go out and you play the same sound and you don't have to move things around, or you're not improvising or experimenting all the time. Of course, I do that when I go on a straight up gig that does the same thing all the way through. So there is always that, the set it and forget it. It's awesome. Aren't those great gigs, right? The lowest stress gigs. The other ones where I want to be as experimental as possible. I want to be improvising. I want to be looking for new things. I want to be able to do that and have a massive palette of sounds, but still, like I said, with the lowest amount of stress, with the least amount of knob twiddling and tap dancing when it comes to the pedal board. And especially when I'm like tweaking my basic sound for a room, like when it becomes room specific, being able to go just a couple of clicks and dialing kind of a completely different sound. I'm going to go back and forth between, I think that's 5 and 7. let's push it a little more. 2 more notches. And like I said, this is, in real time. This is me going through sounds, and the reason I'm letting these notes hang on is because I haven't put it under the microscope yet. And I want to see, because I know my own sound so well. I know what I've been using. Like if we switch over, the bottom end is going to fall out a little bit because I don't have the bass boosted on my board. So this is the other board. Like this is the main pedal board. Go back to the mantle. So actually right now, I'm loving the low end. I think I bumped it 2 more, so I'm going to take it back a notch and then give myself a little bit of boost in the treble. Yeah, so that note maybe sits out a little more when I go for it. That's nice. So there's a real difference between this range and this range. Of course, it comes down to the way I'm playing it and the technique and the nuance of touch and articulation. But having the confidence to be able to go for something and knowing that it's there rather than there's going to be a part of the range that's weak is kind of key. So I'm going to set the treble back in the 12 o'clock position and just go all out with the bass here. Oh, yeah, okay. It's crazy, even though you can hear it's a little woofy, a little subby, it's definitely got the most amount of low end that this thing's going to give you. But it still hasn't lost all the characteristics of the upper end, of the upper register. And for context, let's go back to 12 o'clock. Oh, excuse me. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, it's going to be one of those days. We haven't messed with the gain yet. We're going to get into that in a second. I would say my happy spot is probably a couple of notches in for this part of the sound. We could kind of cut the highs a little bit. Let's go extreme. Let's cut them all. Okay. And this is kind of how I like to get into pedals, into new pieces of gear, is just go with whatever the extreme setting is and dial it back from there. There were a couple of moments where Ian went like super extreme in his video. I think he took all of the bass out and cranked all of the treble, and that sounds, yes, definitely sound a little thinner. Yeah, completely different instrument. So there is range there. Perhaps not the most usable everyday sound, shall we say, but and this is all on the front pickup so far. I can roll in the back. It's going to give a bit more bite. In fact, I'll go just back pickup. So let's just back pickup and everything flat on the mantle. Put a little more low end in that, a couple of notches. I do like that a lot. Yeah. And that's with a little more poke with the high end. I'm going to keep an eye on my computer here, but we'll give it some gain from the Mantle. Right now we're at noon. Let's give it a couple of clicks. Yeah, so this is immediately where we get into, I mean, not that we haven't already, of course, all of these sounds have an effect on the fingers, but I think the gain is the one that sticks out the most for me in terms of how it feels under my fingers, especially with my picking hand. For me, that's my right hand. That is, yeah, sonic. You can hear as much as you want of this. I could make hours and hours and hours of sound samples and it wouldn't come close to telling you how that feels under your fingers. I'm always looking for this feeling of invincibility when it comes to touch, and that is not a commentary on pure technique or speed or anything like that. That's just a feeling of I want to be able to play anything that I hear, whether that be kind of things we've been playing so far, simple fifths or chords, whatever it is. That's what I mean when I say that feeling of invincibility. It's just like everything sort of sits above and floats above and is available to me. So when we hit the gain, just a couple of notches there, that's where my brain goes. That's my first thought. And yeah, I'm not going to crank it too crazy because we're already kind of at the max of where my system is set up. But just that, I mean, we'll take it back down to noon. And let's go one notch. Yeah, 2. Yeah, that doesn't suck at all. Again, just for clarity's sake, we'll go back to everything at noon, and we'll switch over to my rig if the. And it's not a fair fight. We should get into the comparisons here, which is what people are inevitably going to want to do. I think that's perhaps where a lot of people got their opinions about the price of this pedal. Obviously, there's way more we can dig into, way more settings, and I will get to some more musical examples towards the end of the episode. But it's important to put things in context. Right now on my pedal board, I've had the Caveman BP1 Compact sitting off to the side. But we're talking about just gain and volume controls on that, no EQ. So in terms of making it match, I did the best I could. Pretty clean. Like it's I've got to ask Ian. That's one of the things I wanted to call Ian and say, hey, give me the skinny on this and let me know all these details. But that's for another time. That's for now, actually, after I've got a chance to play it and see how much he was thinking about a 1073, for instance, the classic Neve preamp, and what his thoughts were behind it. So I want to get his specific design requirements and what he referenced in the build of the pedal now that I've had a chance to feel what it is and compare it to things I know very well that I've been playing for a long time that perhaps even you have seen out there, maybe played yourself, maybe even own yourself. Something like the Caveman, the BP1 and the BP1 Compact. Those have been around for quite a while. I've had them for a few years. I have a few units out here on the desk for comparison as we address the issue of price. It's yeah, I haven't come to, I don't have final thoughts. I don't have a conclusion of the mantle. I can't say it checks this box and that box and I love this and I don't like that, because it's so brand new to me. So perhaps this is one of a few times that I'm going to feature it on the channel and get into it. I will say, first of all, it sounds and feels great. But that's not really a that's a lazy endorsement of a product, right? It's I think the fact that I was able to match it so well to what I already do without even thinking about it, and what I use currently is immensely high quality and definitely not cheap. I use all things that are in the same ballpark price wise as the mantle. So the fact that it was able to come in and do the bare minimum without even touching it, like literally just plugging it in and leaving the knobs at noon, is a great win. That's a great plus sign to me. It's a very positive sign that it's a well thought out design. And the fact that it has these EQ things, and I like that. Let's get into some of these things. Obviously, if you follow the channel for a while, you know that I used and still do from time to time the color box for a while. This was on my board. It's still got the dual lock on the bottom. The JHS color box V2. Again, it's a Neve 1073. Way more EQ options here, and fantastic EQ options, and notched. I don't know how much you'll hear this. Yeah, you can hear them. I love the notched thing. That's what the mantle has. It has a feel, very much a feel of a piece of studio gear. And we'll get into why that's important when it comes to the price in just a minute. But for those people who want to make the comparisons in price and in quality of gear and in sound with things that you probably know already, the JHS Color Box is no stranger to my touring and recording pedal board, and has been around me for a while, and it's been great. It's the kind of thing, like, I've maybe referenced this before, but one show in particular sticks out when I was in China. And if you've ever toured in China before, you'll completely understand this, and you'll be like, oh my god, that's so true. If you haven't, it can be one night where everything is maybe the best you've ever had it in the world, and just everything works, from the backstage manager to the production manager to the front of house to the sound to it's like perfect, and all the gear is the best. And then the next night you're in like some concrete box rock hall, boomy and just awful, like completely in the wrong venue. But by some margin, like, you should not be playing the music you're playing in that venue, and that's a promoter or booking agent snafu. And you have to really work hard to make it happen. And I remember being on a show where I've never EQ'd myself as much as this, and the color box was amazing for that. I had to dial in so many specific things in the bass, the mid, and the treble, and it made the difference between having just an awful time and actually a really good time at the end of the day. So with units like this that are themselves not cheap, yes, a little bit cheaper than the mantle, there's just a standard of quality that I think is pretty high when you get to this stuff that does justify the price point on a lot of these things. So I'm no stranger to the JHS, the Colorbox V2. Let's run some prices. Let's give you like here we are, January 16th, 2026, and this is what this stuff goes for. We can start on very much on the cheaper end. It's hard to, it's impossible. You can't say that any of these things I'm about to show you are of poor quality. Everything is very well made. It's just when I read those comments about, are you kidding me, $750? You really have to put into context what they do, how they do it, how they're made, what components are in there. And, Ian did give me a little bit of a backstory. Unfortunately, I don't have a degree in engineering, and I'm not clued into which transformers are this and these converters and these preamps and these caps and blah, blah, blah. There are, like Ian said in his thing, he didn't want it to be inexpensive. He wanted a serious piece of gear. And I think they went after that in the quality of the components. So none of the things I'm about to show you are bad, but there is a sliding scale. And with that sliding scale comes a multitude of different price points. For bass, you could look at the DB925 from Aguilar. And I've got a list of prices here. I'm actually not even sure if they make this anymore, but DB925 comes in at $150. and it does some things. It has a bass and a treble knob on it, and an on and an off switch. It's really simple, and it is contoured in a very specific way, and the frequencies are chosen for you. It does exactly what it says on the box. It's $150. Not so shockingly bad. And by the way, everything I'm about to show you is something I have used before at some point, maybe with the exception of the Origin Effects bass rig. I never took that on the road with me. It's probably the only one that hasn't been out of the house, but you can hear that in the DI shootout video that I made a couple of years ago on the channel, and make up your own mind as to how it sounds compared to everything else. There's the Trilogic Bass Preamp 2 by EWS or Exotic. I'm never quite sure what that company is. That is a little bumped up in price to $210. Has more EQ options. I think it's a great pedal. I used to use this all the time. This used to be an always on under the pedal board. You'll know from previous videos, I used to use the EP booster from Exotic and turn down to 0, but always on with the vintage preamp sound. Okay, $100. I got it used at Guitar Center. There are so many ways in to this world that you don't have to freak out about the price of a pedal. That we're going to get to why I think it's actually priced the right way in just a minute. I was thinking about this and trying to figure out a way to explain it so everyone understood, but you might not be. I'm not really a car person, but I used to be a Top Gear fan, and one of my favorite episodes was when Herr Langsamer, like Captain Slow, James May. If you're a Top Gear fan, you will understand this. If not, bear with me. The episode where they took a Bugatti Veyron and they took it on the track, and James May took it over, I think, 200 miles an hour. It's a long time ago. It was the first iteration of the Bugatti Soup Hypercar, whatever you call it. And it was made by Volkswagen. I think they still make it. And if I remember correctly, the cars were selling, I don't know, I can't remember the exact price, but let's say the car was selling for $2 million and it was like costing VW $3 million to make. It was just a spectacle of engineering. And it wasn't for everyone, as a lot of the things I'm about to show you, and the thing I'm featuring and talking about the most, the Mantle, it's not for everyone. Like, not everyone has $750 to spend on a pedal. But bear in mind, if you aren't that person, if you don't have the $750, you're not wrong. Like, it's not a bad thing. Like, I'm not the person who can afford the Bugatti Veyron. I never will be. I might never want to be, actually. But there's always a Honda Civic, for a fraction of the cost, that still has 4 wheels and still gets you to where you want to go, as long as it runs okay. And maybe you don't even have a car at all, and you're lucky enough to live in a country that values affordable and accessible public transportation, and you take the train or the bus or the tram or whatever it is to work. You don't even need a car. It doesn't exclude you in any way. So I think it's important to, before you lash out and talk about the price of something that you probably haven't even heard much and definitely not tried, it's worth thinking about putting it in context and knowing that there is an entry point for everyone. And there is a reason these things are priced the way they're priced. Let's see, Teletronics TDI. This is just a DI. It's not a preamp. So this was my original one, the number 5, the Janek Gwizdala prototype. I think that ended up going for $279, something like that, $300, somewhere around there. There is the Miura. There is some unobtainium stuff on this list, of course, because they don't make it anymore. Miura, for a little while, made this K3 preamp DI, has a bunch of EQ on it. I saw one on reverb.com for $379. And again, I don't know the internals of all of these units, and perhaps that'll be a nice follow-up. Maybe I'll even go visit Ian again in at his place, and we'll talk about it and do an episode of the podcast together, to where we can really break down the difference between, the components that maybe go into a unit like this and the components that are in the Mantle. I'm kind of fascinated by it, I got to say, and I would like to know. The JHS, the color box, goes for $449. And what else have we got over here? The Origin Effects, the the bass rig. Where did I have that? The Origin. My eyes are really going. That's $565. and I get, it has some EQ stuff on it. It has cab sim stuff. Okay. There are a couple of things I wasn't crazy about in terms of the routing on this. I think that's probably why. There were things I loved about it, but there was a certain element where I couldn't turn off the cab sim for a certain setting, which sort of a setting I would really use on a regular basis. So that kind of excluded that from being on the board. Although if I wanted an Ampeg emulator, I'd probably grab that. Then we're getting up into the world of, actually way exceeding the Mantle in terms of price, and that's the BP1 from Caveman Audio. That goes for $899, and there's an option, I think, to have a wireless situation on it. I forget exactly what that is, but there's another option which is $999. So you're talking about $900 or $1,000 for a preamp that has no EQ on it. So putting it into context, we're talking about, okay, maybe it doesn't have an EQ on it, but it does have an effects loop. It's not featureless. I'm just saying there are, I think, reasons for the price point of the Mantle, which come more into focus when you look at this stuff, especially when you check out that DI shootout I did with all of those things, because one thing I don't have in my possession, one thing I really loved, and they were so kind to send me one for that video, was the Jule, Jule, Jule Amps Simone, or Simone, I think Simone. And that's $1,233. And so it should be. I mean, this is full tubes, for instance. And when we talk about the thing, people probably know most of all in the bass world, I would say it's pretty safe to say, fair to say, that the Noble DI is one of the most recognizable, one of the most well-known, one of the most popular and widely sold units. I'm so fortunate to have been in there since almost day one and have serial number 9 right here. This is the 9th one, and as a result, you can see it doesn't look anything like the models that ship today, because this one has the tubes on the outside, the power supply. It's a much more tourable unit now, but you're also looking at, once you kick in the $20 shipping, $1,419. Let's call it $1,400, and an 11-month wait list to get one. So if you actually wanted a Noble right now and you wanted to go buy one used, there's one. This is how much people sell this stuff. There's one, because people, they buy once, they cry once, and there is literally one on reverb.com as of the making of this video, and it's $2,000. Free shipping, but it's $2,000, and so it should be. It is. Here's the kicker. Actually, one more point. Let's blend these points. Let's focus on the fact that I think the Mantle has a lot to do with, has so much in common, perhaps actually is a studio piece of gear put in to a pedal. I think that's what the Caveman BP1 is. I think that's what the JHS color box is. That's the concept behind these things. But once you understand that gear, if you spent a lot of time in recording studios, if you are perhaps an engineer watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That a 1073 is going to set you back, I think it's $2,000 or $1,950 or something like that for the rack mount. And there's a 500 series, which is maybe $1,150 or $1,200. We're talking serious money. And to shrink that down and have the quality be that epic into a pedal, like some of the things I've shown you here, especially the Mantle, which I think is going after that kind of genre, after that branding, everything, the look of it, the feel of it, the notched knobs, the weight of it. It doesn't feel like a thin aluminum whatever. It's like a proper piece of gear. One thing we should point out about that I really liked off the bat, something I can't do with what I currently use with my Caveman BP1 Compact, for instance. It's too high to fit under the riser of my pedal board, and the Mantle isn't. The Mantle could well be an always on EQ and DI right up front in my signal chain. That's my initial take on it as to how I might use it in my setup, because it fits so perfectly underneath the pedal board riser. Sorry to Walrus Audio and to Ian and everyone that when I go out and play, it'll actually be hidden, but if I do end up using that, I'm sure it will make it I'll make that known and do some pedalboard build videos. But that's a plus. Like the form factor, the actual real estate it takes up is slightly smaller than an HX Stomp. So it's not a small unit by any means. But for what it does, and I really want to dig deeper into the architecture of it with Ian. Maybe actually it would be fun to go to Walrus Audio and interview those guys and get the super extra technical explanation of it. And just conceptually, like how you go about doing that, how you take a beautiful piece of studio gear or just the concept of a 1073 or whatever that is that you're trying to pedalize, shall we say, and how you pack it all in there. It's a meaty piece of gear. I think that's really important. That's what kind of where it's coming from. At least that's the feel I get from it, is a piece of studio gear. So that's it. That's a bunch of comparisons of all of these things that are out there in the market, and all of these things that I genuinely I own, as you can see, and use. As you will have seen over the years on a very regular basis. Let's see. Let's go for some more sounds. And what I'm looking forward to doing after I really experiment with this is putting it on the board and figuring out how I'm going to do my routing and what I'm going to use for an effects loop and stuff, and really pushing that into all my reverbs and stuff. So right now, if you're not aware, if you don't know what I do, some elements of what I do involve kind of, really quite big sounds. And really sort of washing things out in a big way. When you consider that is one end of the picture, and the other end is something like this. Let's dial in some stuff again on this mantle. Give it some beans. Yeah. Nice to hear how those harmonics with the treble boosted there. It's kind of crazy, right? I play now a passive bass. I've always played active basses before. Now I play a passive bass and just have volume and a passive tone control here. But the amount of options open to me with just this kind of, with this architecture of the mantle, with the bass, the treble, the gain, it's kind of crazy how many sounds you can get without having to have 5, 6, 7 knobs and 3 switches. Something I used to do and used to have. I've had Federas and even previous Mattesons that had a lot of controls on them. I'm really digging the studio approach to live playing, let's say. I wish I had paid more attention on earlier record dates in my career, when I was going in and people were, miking amps and plugging in preamps and making choices on my behalf, obviously because they knew way more about it than I did. I wish I'd paid a little more attention to the architecture of that in the studio, so I was maybe perhaps better informed earlier on in my career as to how to do that with my own pedal board and with stuff like the Mantle and with a passive bass. Something I've been working on more the past 4 or 5 years, and whenever I get the chance to try something new like this, like the Mantle, it's pretty... Yeah, I've talked about this with the Wetter box, for instance, from the Gig Rig. Like all these tools that don't do crazy, wacky things. They don't do tape modulation or, self-oscillating reverbs or delays. They're not wacky ambient machines. They do something quite basic. And I've been raising the importance internally of that, of my fundamental sound, of my clean sound, way, way more over the years. And again, super grateful, and I'm in an incredibly fortunate, lucky position to be able to have something like this sitting on my desk, to be able to try it out, to be free to offer my opinion about it without being told what to say. I really dig that. And again, I don't think the price point is wrong when you put it into the context of just everything else that's out there and what it does. Maybe a clearer understanding of how it's made and what it does is needed. Maybe those people that shout and scream about price are just, they don't want to listen. So maybe because Ian did a beautiful job of explaining the thing. It didn't take me long to be like, oh yeah, shit, I understand what's going on here. And then as soon as you play it, you're like, oh, I really understand what's going on here. Like I said, it's all about the feeling. Of course, there are elements of tone shaping with this thing, with so many of the things I've mentioned today that are great, that are useful. But it's, changing the sound. Yes, that's fantastic. The story I recollected about the EQ in the crazy room in China. But at the end of the day, it's all about how it makes you feel as a player. So if a store has one, go check it out, man. I hope you live close to someone who has one or a store that has one, so you can. Just like every piece of gear. That's the other thing. Put it in context. Do you have the millions of dollars to buy the Bugatti? Or do you ride the train? And there's nothing wrong with riding the train. That's the thing. There's like nothing wrong with using the DB925. Because at the end of the day, it kind of doesn't matter what piece of gear you use. If you can't play, it's only going to highlight the fact that you can't play. So, yeah. Are you a rocket scientist riding the train? Or did you did you fail high school 50 times, but you're driving a Bugatti? Probably you did something right if you're driving a Bugatti. So maybe you didn't. Yeah, bad analogies, but you know what I mean? Like one thing doesn't equal the other, Don't worry so much about the gear. Please definitely don't worry about the price point. Just put it in context as to how it all works. There's no real secret to it. And hopefully we can demystify that as we move on and give people less anxiety and less, what do you call FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Oh my God, I got to have the next thing. Well, what is the next thing? And what about all the things you already have? And are there 10 things out there that you think you might need, but only one that will actually do the thing, but that one has a bigger pain point of price? Buy once, cry once. I think that's worth thinking about. And get in the comments. Let me know your feedback. I'm sure there are going to be a few people on this video even that are like, man, $750, are you out of your mind? Well, good. Let me know. I'd like to talk to you, because I don't think Walrus are out of their mind. I think Ian did a great job, and you guys know me. I just like to make cool sounds with cool things. I wouldn't be saying any of this if I didn't mean it. Companies send me stuff all the time, and there are only so many hours in a day to make videos like this. These days, fewer and fewer and fewer hours. And if I don't like something, I just say, hey, this wasn't for me. I send it back. I don't make the video. So hopefully you regular viewers, listeners, coffee drinkers out there will know that by now. The trust has been formed, and on we go. Your questions, please, below. Questions, comments. Are you going to be getting a mantle? Oh, I almost forgot. I did check before filming this video. Guess what? It's sold out. Come on, man. Like, that should tell everyone something, you know, that there are enough people who value high quality stuff, that know what they're doing, you know, to go out and get this. Yeah, I think that was pretty hilarious. It's like, it's one thing if everyone screams that it's $750 and then it's like perpetually in stock and they sell like 5 units. But I'm pretty sure their initial run was not 5 units. Pretty sure it was significantly more than that, and they're gone. It's only been out a few days, and it is not a lightly priced device, I give you that much. But man, it's gone. You can't get one, and that speaks volumes. And then let's hear what people think once they get it in their hands. That'll be the fascinating part. I'm sure that's the nail-biting part for Ian, for Walrus. I'm sure Walrus have more experience of releasing products. They've been doing it for years, and very successfully so. But I'm sure I'm going to see Ian tomorrow. I'm sure that's a nail biter of a moment or moments or time as that passage of time passes, and people start to get them, and you get the real feedback from the real world, and they go out on the road and they do their thing. Man, I hope for him, I hope for Walrus that it all comes back 2 thumbs up. I think it should. That's the feeling I get from it. And like I said, nobody's paying me to say that. I'm just in that really fortunate spot to be able to try something out very, very early on, and get to dig it and get to share it with you. So thanks for spending some of your insanely precious time with me, talking about gear, about money, about prices, and about about trying to frame it perhaps a little on a little more on a healthier side for you, for all of us. Buy once, cry once. All right, I'll see you soon.